We're in the final stretch on ways to the playoffs, and it is going to be a tough. Today we're going to be going over teams that are currently on the edge of the playoffs and what I think is going to be the final record for every team in the playoffs. Also, the predictions for next week. This is Sports Hour. All right. So this is week 15. It has been a pretty interesting week for all the teams trying to fight up for the last couple seats. We have currently got we had regularly last season week we had a total of 0 seeds locked already. This time we have a total of 2 seeds locked as of this for this week. Yes. And the seeds are as follows. Panthers have clinched a divisional round. So they are at lowest, the 4th seed. And that's assuming they lose the rest of the season. And honestly, kind of seems to be unlikely. I don't think that's very likely that the Panthers will lose too many more games this season. Even if they do happen to lose out, I don't think they're going to get the 4th seed. They're going to get, I think, the 3rd seed. Because in order for the Panthers to, even if the Panthers do lose out, which means they'll put at them at 13 and 5, if the Cardinals or the Ravens or Tigers, or if you happen to do that, win all of their games, they'll still only be at 12. They'll still only be at 13 wins and 5 losses. And depending on how the Panthers do in those games, would make it. Basically, the Panthers would have. I think the Panthers would still have at least the 2nd seed. The Giants are the only team that has currently made the playoffs. Yes, at this time, and they are ensured a playoff position. And there's no questioning that at the time for this game is. Most teams the teams are in pink currently lose next week. If they lose next week, they are likely out of the playoffs, assuming that that the Saints and Browns both lose, both win. If the Tigers win, it doesn't matter so much, but it would be interesting. So if the Saints and Browns both lose, there's a good chance that all these teams will be eliminated for the playoffs. Last for the ABL, we have two teams on the edge, but no teams are currently out of the playoffs. And honestly, I don't know if we're going to see any teams out of the playoffs even next week. We'll probably see teams start being eliminated from the playoffs for the ABL, not this week, but next week. And it will be a very close, very interesting outcome. Currently, the Chargers and Colts are both in that position, and we'll talk about those parts a little bit later. Otherwise, season standings have been pretty handsome. As for the ranking, I've updated all these already. 148 and 20, about 0.64, 64%, versus the overalls almost even. I don't think I actually updated this. I did not. Yeah, this is actually I got another 7 points this week for the teams. But since no one did any, at this point, I'm probably not going to be giving any prizes or ways for this season. I'm planning on doing season 2, and season 2 will have a draft and starting next year, which will be February. The draft will be open. The draft lock will be open, I believe, starting late December, and the draft will occur 2 weeks in February, there will be weekends, and they will go over round 1, round 2 will be day 1. Sunday will be 3 and 4, and then Monday, or actually I don't even know what day it's going to be at the moment in time, but they're going to be over 3 days in it. And you guys will be able to choose that at that point if you want it. I haven't decided how I'm going to do this yet. Alright, let's go ahead and talk about the teams. What's going to happen over the next 4 weeks. Predictions. Now, granted, these are not creative. I've already put my predictions in for a few of these. I still feel like the Beagles will have an easy time and will win all these games. I think their toughest game will probably be this week for the Giants. But between the Beagles, I think this is going to be a very tight game. And my prediction, I think they're going to still probably be very close. This game will likely be the game of the week for this week, and it could potentially be basically the most powerful game of all time. But we'll see going into this week whether that is going to be the game of the week or not. In my opinion, that's probably the best game that we're going to have. As for the Chargers, I do not see them doing very well for the rest of the season. I had them predicted at this point 6-11 and 1. That's because I don't see them actually winning any of these games. In fact, the only game I even see them winning would be the last game of the season, which honestly at this point is kind of worthless. You've already been eliminated for the playoffs at that point, and there's just no reason to continue on with this. So 6 games, and that will be, I believe, 4th place in the division. 4th place, or it could even be 3rd place in the division. I think my prediction might be correct here at the beginning of the season. The Supermen, I have them going 13-5 and 1 after a win against the Jets, a loss against the Beagles, a win against the Chargers and a loss to the Dolphins. I have them going 2-2 for the remainder of the season, which puts them at, as of right now, 9. As of right now, they got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They're currently 9, 8, and 1, I think. Nope. If I'm correct. I have them predicted. That is not right. To go 2-2. I have their current record is 9-3-1. If I'm correct about that, I think I might be wrong. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah. So their current record's 3-1 at this down to it. And I see them winning and losing some games. So my final prediction, I don't even know how it is that they're going to be at most 12-5-1. I'm going to say it's going to be tough for them to do much here. But I'm going to go with them being in the end 11-5, 11-5-1. And I don't think that's actually calculated correctly because 11 plus 5 plus 1. That's 17 games. That's not right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, that's why. I have them going 11-6-1 for the end of the season for these last 4 weeks, and honestly, don't think that's unreasonable. It probably put them in second place in their division. Do not know whether that will be enough to put them into the wild card slot that will put them in. I think it will put them in a wild card slot. At this point, 11-6-1 is pretty good. All right, now go to Westville. I don't see them winning any games except for maybe the Jets game. So I have them currently at 4-10. Yeah, I had them losing this next week, winning the next 2 games, and then losing the last game of the season, putting them at 6-1, which will be unfortunately last place in the division, only by a little bit. Only by a little bit, only by a half a game. But we'll see how that works out in the end, and I couldn't see, well, I guess. Alright, looking at the 8th ends, I had them going 10-8 at their end of this for the rest of the season. Two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Currently, their records are their currently record at their current record is 8-6, I believe. But the thing is, it's gonna be a tough couple weeks for them. I think they're gonna win once against UNC, then win against the Colts, but then lose both of the other 2 games. Both the other game against UNC and losing it. I think 8-1's 18. Sorry, 10-1 is 10-8 is still a pretty good record. I think they're going to have a good chance at making the playoffs with that record. As for UNC, their current record is 6-8. Exactly the opposite. I don't have them winning one more game, and that would be against the Indians, most likely. I don't think they're going to have a chance of winning any other games. Winning against the Indians is their best chance. I think they're going to lose both, one or both times against the Events. I could see them possibly having an 8-10 record, but that's the best I can see them doing. As for the Dolphins currently. Now let's go to look at this. Dolphins have a current 5-8-1 record. I have them winning all of the games going forward. All of the games. Which will put them at 9-8-1. I do not know how I calculate it correctly though. 5-1, is that right? That's 14. One, I do have them winning. I do have them all winning all 4 of the games for regular season for this prediction. However, I think the Athens game, one of the Athens or the Superman game will actually prove out to be trouble. Don't see a competition between the Westville and UNC. The Giants, I had them doing really well at the beginning of the season, which I believe I put them at first place in their division. Uh, let's just say they are currently 4-11, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4. They're currently 4-10. I don't see them winning many of these games. I think they lose against the Saints, they lose against Superman, and they probably lose against one of these 2 games and win the other. So it's going to be a very poor game. They're going to get, instead of being first place like I thought they were going to do, they could be last place. I think the Athens and Jets will pretty much switch places for the division wise. We got the Otters. Their current record for the Otters is 9-5. I do have them losing the game against the Lions, but honestly, it's gonna be a tough game. It could be easily the game of the week for that week, and I could see it be either way. I do have them. I think this schedule is about right. I think it's gonna be come down to that Lions and USC game. The Dragons, I just don't expect them to actually win that game. Packers, we've got a pretty interesting lineup. Packers have one of the hardest schedules remaining. The only game I can see them even winning is against the Lightning. Their current record being 5-9. It's gonna put them as a split. I think they will win 2 of the games. I would say the Browns and Lightning game. They'll probably win both of those, but I think they'll lose both the Pirates and the Panthers game. It will be tough. That will probably not put them in. As for the Lions, I had them predicted as going 11-2. At this point, I had them predicted to go. What was it? 2-16 or something like that at the end of the season. I'm changing that around. I actually have them going to 15-3. The only game I think they're gonna have a hard time with will be the Otters game, and that's why I predict it's gonna be at this point be probably the toughest game of their lives. They're currently 12-2. Could go either way. As for the Lightning, they're currently 6-8. Lightning have a 6-8 record. And it's not going to be too pretty for them at the Rainier season. They got to play the Falcons, which they'll probably win that game. They have to play the Panthers. They'll lose that game most likely. The Tigers and Packers game are kind of questionable. I would say they go 1-1 each of those games. So in my prediction here is that they do end up with a pretty decent 8-10 record. Not high enough to get a very good pick, but not too low. My prediction for those things, 2-2 is what I'm going to go with. As for the AFC North, currently 3-8, 3-6, and one that is totally not right though. They're currently, I believe, at 8-8, if I understand correctly. Well, not quite. Their Techs are currently 6-7-1. If I understand that correctly. And honestly, it's a pretty big toss-up to see how the Techs can do. Between the Techs and the Bobcats, either one of the teams could potentially win at this time. And it's going to be tough. For the last couple games of the season, they got they got some difficult games and then some easy games. I have to split them as 2-2 here. I'm gonna put them at 8. I think their final score is gonna be 8-7-1. No, sorry, 8-9-1. It's gonna be split. I think they're gonna lose probably against the Bobcats and the Werewolves. The other two games is probably gonna be wins. As for the Colts, who do the Colts have? Colts, the Werewolves. Let's see, Colts here have 4-9-1. And my prediction here is it's going to be a interesting turnaround for that one, being 4-9-1. It's going to be tough for these last couple games. I do not see them winning. Maybe Westville, but the other three are just going to be. My final prediction for that team is 5-12-1. That's my prediction. As for the Werewolves, they have a dilemma here. Apparently they didn't play the Colts. Hold on 1 second. There's a Colts problem. It's 96 to 123. Apparently I missed this one. And for the Colts game, Colts lost. No, Colts, that's a win. 75 to 103. I don't know what happened with that one, but oh, it's more prime. So this is gonna be interesting. I have to say, with the Bobcats and Texas game, it's probably gonna be their toughest, closest matchup. But the problem is they've got three pretty tough matches up there. And to be honest, I had the Bobcats getting last place. I don't see them getting last place, but I don't see them doing much better than last place. My final prediction is 8, 9, and 1. Alright, so yeah, 8, 9, and 1 is what I'm predicting. I think the only game that's going to be a free skip is either the Tex or the Bulldogs game, and both of those games could be could go either way. For the NBL West, the Tigers currently have a 9-5 record. They got to play the Indians, the Otters, the Lightning, and the Lions. I'm going to say 2-2 for those games. Predictions can be 11-7, which I'm not sure is going to be get them to the top of the division playoffs. As for the Browns, they got to play the Chargers, the Packers, the Ravens, and the Otters. They're also going to be about 2-2. To be honest, I think they're going 10-8. Indians. It's going to be interesting here because the Indians aren't that great, but they aren't bad. They're 4-9-1. So, I mean, they're not at all the best team. They're not all the worst team either. 4-9-1. Predictions here is they're going to have a hard time with the Tigers. They're going to have a hard time with the Ravens. I think they might win the last two games of the season. And to me, I'm going to predict them going 5-12-1. That's what I'm going to do. I think it's going to be nice. Ravens have probably the weirdest thing for schedule. I have them predicted to. I think I'm predicting them, even though I had them predicted correctly to lose these games. I have them winning 3 of these 5 games. I don't think the Lions are going to win there. I'm putting them at 9-5 here. I actually have them 12-6 at the end of the season. And to be honest, that will put them as being first place in the division. Now, originally I put the Ravens being last. I don't think it's happening this time. It's gonna be close, and honestly, I could easily see 11-7 happen with the way it's been with the way it's worked out. Since the Ravens and Tigers don't play, we have to go back to what their other games are. It'll be Tigers. Ravens have lost that game. And they've only played one game. They would have actually played here in this next week if that was actually a game. But unfortunately, if it is close, it will likely be the Ravens. Yes, but the way I have predicted, I think the Ravens will win. If it's a tie, I will have the Tigers be the division leader. Moving on to the NBL East. Not much to say about not really much to say about the Angels. I had them winning exactly one of those games. Yeah, that's how bad I think it is for them. I know the Angels have a decent record right now. Let's go back to the issue of this. Angels only have a 6-8 record at this point, and they got three pretty tough games. Now that I don't have them, I have them going 8-10 in the end of the season. Dogs have a pretty interesting hits. If it were for regularly, I would probably call the Hawks all these losses, but I actually going to call 2 of these wins and 2 of these losses. Unfortunately, it's not going to be enough for the Dogs to be the leaders or even make the playoffs at this point. Putting them at, because even with a 5-9 record, it's just going to be too much for them. I'm going to have them going 7-11, which is not going to be enough to make the playoffs this turn. Unfortunately, the Giants will probably already clinch it anyways. I have them winning 3 out of those games. I have them going at points 15-3 at the end of the season, which could potentially put them into a position where they could be fighting for the top division. The Knights, I got them going probably 3-1 here. Um, it's gonna be tough for this team, but I have them predicted after a 7-7 record. Not really gonna do much better, honestly. I think they're going to get 9-9. Is my prediction for this. All right, the NBL South probably would be the toughest division, well, with the exception of the Hawks, to decide who's going to get. I'm gonna again have the Cardinals going 2-2 up to this point, so 11-7 is what I'm going to have them predicted as. The Dragons, I just don't see them winning any games. It's not going to work out for the Dragons, unfortunately. Um, even though I think the Dragons are going to have a pretty tough time, I'm going to predict them winning one of the games, and the rest go pretty much out the door. 6-12 is what I had them predicted in the end. As for the Hawks, couldn't see them win. I don't see them winning any games this season. It's going to be pretty sad for them. But they'll probably get the first round pick. I don't have them winning any games. I'm putting them at 2-16, which is going to be probably worse in the entire league. As for the Bulldogs, I'm going to have them probably half and half, I would think. Bulldogs here have a 6-8 record. Well, I had them 6-8 here. I don't know what happened here. Let me look at the. I think I might have this one mixed up here. It's the. I'm looking at. Bulldogs 6-8. I have them 6-8. Don't really know what happened. Oh, whoops. That's a loss. I don't know. It's 6-8. It's gonna be tough for me to even predict it. I do think they're gonna win one of the games, but I couldn't say much more than that. I'm gonna go with 7-11 for them. I know this is a much longer episode, but we're gonna get pretty close through the predictions. I actually think it's gonna be only the Cardinals making the playoffs at this point. Maybe the Bulldogs will get lucky and be able to make the playoffs, but I just don't see it at this current time. NBC North, I have the Panthers winning the rest of the games of the season. I don't see them losing at this point. So the 13-1 record is going to stay pretty strong, 17-1. I think the toughest game for the Panthers are going to be the Saints game this week and the Pirates game, which will be in this year, which I don't even honestly know if that's going to matter. The Saints, I'm going to have them losing as the Panthers, winning against all three of the remaining teams. Uh, Being 8-6 is probably not going to get them into the playoffs at this current moment, but I think an 11-7 record will probably get them into the playoffs, and they have probably one of the toughest schedules. Their last three are probably the easiest games. Looking at the Falcons, can't say that I'm going to predict them to win any of these games. No, I don't see it. 2-12 is just going to have to win it. 2-16. Honestly, it is going to be an interesting dilemma here, but there was a little hint. The Hawks will have the first round bye because the Falcons will win. That's really the only thing. But both these teams are going to be pretty badly. As for the Pirates, I'm going to have them going, no, I'm not going to. I think they win next week, and then that's it. 5-13 is the final prediction I have for them, and that's not even 100% correct. Let me see. Here is the Pirates have a record. Pirates. 5-9 according to this. So they're 5. Which I think probably puts them at 6-12 record. So honestly, the Saints will probably make the playoffs at this point in time, but it's going to be very close. I totally had the Saints wrong. Oh, it is. All right, let's take a look at the predictions for this next week. This is it's basically do or die for some of these teams. It's the first game, and I may have some of these games not actually marked as divisional games, even though they are divisional games. Like that's a divisional game right there. Bulldogs and Cardinals game I think is divisional. Yeah, Bulldogs and Cardinals is divisional. Giants and Beagles? No. Dogs and Hawks? No. Indians and Tigers? Yeah. So there's probably a few games here I might have actually posted to be marked. First game is going to be a pretty tough one between the Angels and Knights. It is highly favored for the Angels to win this game. I'm however looking at the score line for both those teams. Angels haven't done particularly well in the score line. They're averaging 89 points per game. Versus the Knights are scoring only 81 points per game on average. Rounding. So basically, this game is. I have to look really at their defensive development. And what I have to go with is that the Angels have a better team overall for defensive rating. In that regard, I have to predict the Angels to win here, but it's a 2-point prediction for me. Lightning Falcons, I have to go with Lightning all day. I don't think the Falcons have what it takes to do anything, especially not even with the Falcons' great offense they have. Lightning will be able to deal with that with their good defense. I have to go with a 1 point prediction though. I think it's going to be closer than you think. Lions and Ravens could be a pretty tough game here. Ravens kind of need it in order to continue on here, but the prediction is 10 points in favor of the Lions. Lions have a extremely good defense, but guess what? The Ravens do not have a good defense at all at this point. And looking at the score lines for those, the Ravens here average 94 points per game, but only allow almost as many points to score. Versus you have the Ravens, the Lions, who score way more points than their average is, but they only got 8. So basically, it comes down really to who I think is the better team, and I think it's the Lions at this point. 2 point prediction favorites. I think these are all going to be pretty much close games. Indians and UNC. No, sorry, Athens and UNC. Athens and UNC could be a pretty tough game, and honestly, this could pretty much be for the division at this moment in time. Both these teams have pretty similar score lines. The Athens are slightly worse, so I really have to look at what their defensive ratings are. Athens have a 96 over 92 overall defensive rating versus the other team here. We've got UNC, and UNC it does not. I have to go with the Athens to win here. 3 point prediction in favorite. It's a close one though. It could go either way. Dragons and Otters. I'm going with the Otters all day. I just haven't seen the Dragons be really that good in 8 points in the season. Not mention if you look at the Otters scoreline versus the Dragons scoreline, it's honestly not much different. The only difference I would have to say is I feel like the Otters have a better chance at winning a game than the Dragons. Pirates and Packers, pretty close, pretty tough game at 5 o'clock on Saturday. Nah, this is tough. I'm going to go with the Packers winning this game. Not much of a prediction difference here. I have literally done very little points here. Colts and Werewolves. I'm going to go with the Werewolves all day. 2 point prediction. I think go with the 3 point prediction for this. I think the Werewolves have a much better team than the Colts do. Oh, and if you look at the score line for the Colts versus the score line for the Werewolves, you will see that it doesn't look that much different. So I have to go with the Werewolves though, because if you look at how the Colts line up, allowing way more points than they are scoring, that's what I have to go with in that regard. Westville and the Dolphins. I'm going to go with the Dolphins winning this game. 4 point prediction. I don't think it's much of a challenge for the Dolphins to win against Westville. Dolphins average about the same amount of points that they score. They allow versus what the Westville does basically exactly the same thing. I have to predict what I think is going to happen here. I think the Dolphins will win that game. Superman and the Jets, I believe that's a divisional game. No, it's not. I have to look at who I think is the better team, and I honestly think Superman is the better team here. Not much to say about this game, other than that I think this could potentially have been the game of the week. It is not, believe it or not. I will show you what the divisional game of the week is. I have it written down over here. This could go either way. It is a 4 point prediction in favor of the Dicks. Texans and Bobcats, pretty tough game. This is literally for the division. Honestly, it is a divisional game. Both these teams, if the Techs win and the Bobcats lose, they'll both have the exact same record. So we'll have to look at what happens. Whoever wins this game actually is going to have really the wild card right now. That's really what it's going to come down to. I think a 2-point prediction is fair. I have to go with the Bobcats here because I think they have a slightly better, they have a slight edge on the Techs. We're looking at the Techs. The Techs have a much better defense. My only benefit to the Bobcats is, if I can find the Bobcats here, is I think they have a more rounded overall team. I don't think it's. I think that the Techs will have had a hard time at the end of the game, where I think the Bobcats will be more rounded and it's a little better for them. The Techs could be really good, and I could see this one going either way. Browns and Chargers. I'm going with Browns. It's not going to be a fun game for the Browns, honestly. Browns do need to kind of win this game in order to stay into the possibility of. They're only scoring an average of 90 points per game and are scoring about the same as they're allowing. But versus the Chargers, who are allowing more points than they're scoring, and they're only scoring about 76 points per game. So it comes down to the fact that I think that the Chargers will have a much hard time. Panthers and Saints game. This is a tough one. I'm going to come back to this game because it is a very interesting game to go at. But the Bobcats and Cardinals game, which is a divisional game, could go either way for me. And it's a game. I think it's the best thing I can say is the Bulldogs do have a pretty good team, and they have an average. They have their best in their division. The only difference is I think that the Cardinals have a harder time holding on to the defensive areas. I have to go with the Bulldogs winning this week with a 5-point prediction. We'll go with 5 points. I had 4 points there, but we'll go with 5. Giants and Eagles. Pretty tough game, and this, my friends, is the game of the week. That is, it's a pretty tough game between the two divisional leaders trying to hold on to being in the best position. Both these teams have about the same score line, and it comes down to a lot of things. I have to look at who has had tougher opponents, and I feel that the Giants have had tougher opponents. I'm going to go with a 4-point prediction in favor of that. Dogs and Hawks, no question there. The Dogs are going to win that game. Hawks have had a hard time all season. I don't care what the scoreline says. The Dogs are much better overall and work much better together than the Hawks do. My prediction is 7 points in favor of the Dogs. Even the Hawks have a much better scoreline. I'm going to go in the last game here, I'm going to go with the Tigers winning that game. Although I would love to see the Indians win it, I don't think they're going to. And this is going to be an interesting, tough game. I actually think 1-point prediction sounds real. I think this is going to be a tough game between two teams. And finally, the Panthers and Saints game. It is a pretty tough game. I am going to predict the Panthers to win this game. I'm going with a 3-point, 4-point prediction here. I think it's going to be very close. And to be honest, this is pretty close. Plus 50 points over between the two teams. That is it for Sports Hour this week. Thank you guys for watching. And don't forget, guys, keep looking out for these things. I'll have another one of these set up for you guys next week. And we're getting very close to the playoffs.